My name's James. I have lived and worked in Melbourne for over 4 years, and during that time I've worked mostly in hospitality. So when I was young, I think I was so grateful for work and so new to this idea of getting paid to do work and be in an industry that health and safety definitely wasn't on the forefront of my mind, but I think that it took me a long time to learn that lesson, and I learnt it the hard way. I was working at a bar, and just one Sunday, it was a quiet Sunday, there wasn't a lot to do, and like a lot of bartenders on a quiet Sunday, we were doing some deep cleaning. I was out in the loading bay, and one of my best mates, one of my co-workers, was asked to get up on the top of a ladder and clean a gutter. And this gutter was basically outside of a sunroof. They had a sunroof in a courtyard, and it was a mechanically retracting sunroof. So he stood inside on the top of the ladder and was reaching out to clean the gutter. The first thing I kind of heard was a bit of a commotion and yelling from the main area of the restaurant where customers were sitting, and I raced outside and I saw, my best mate basically being crushed by this roof. This roof had mechanically retracting roof, a switch had tripped or something, and this roof closed on him from behind and pinned him to the gutter, basically crushing his pelvis and spine. He was suspended up there for around 6 minutes. By the end of that time, he was slipping into unconsciousness. Nobody had any real idea how to help him. Nobody really knew what they should or shouldn't do. Nobody had called 000. And there just seemed to be this state of general panic and confusion. The first thing I did was make sure somebody was calling 000, and then went downstairs to the basement. I managed to find basically a long metal pole and get up on top of the roof and managed to wedge the retracting glass panel open enough to get him out. And then a few minutes later, paramedics and police arrived and stabilized him and sort of wheeled him out on a gurney, half unconscious, into an ambulance. And he spent nearly 6 months in physical rehabilitation, and his and my psychological rehabilitation took a lot longer. I think that even in that situation, if he or I had identified hazards and thought, maybe we should address these hazards, I don't think we would have spoken up. The culture at the workplace was one where hazards that were brought to the attention of managers were kind of put on the back burner. No systematic fixes were put in place. One of my managers was cleaning the bar one day at the end of a shift, and we didn't have bar mats in the bar, which are a rubber mat that provide grip, and we also didn't have proper stools, proper step ladders. We just had a wooden box that they had made for us to stand on to reach the high areas of the bar. And there was a paper towel dispenser on a wall that the latch had been broken on. So it occasionally, if the wind blew the wrong way, would fall. The cover of the paper towel dispenser would fall outwards. Anyway, so my manager was cleaning the bar, standing on this box with no floor. The box slipped out from under him because there was no grip and it wasn't a proper step ladder. He put his hand out to steady himself. The cover of the paper towel dispenser fell off, and he basically sliced his hand open to the bone. With me in the bar, and I remember having to sort of hold his hand together whilst he bled all over me, and we rushed into a taxi to get to the hospital. I guess that was the kind of culture we were in, where these sort of things that we'd mentioned many times, like getting bar mats, getting proper stools, fixing broken pieces of equipment, were put on the back burner and weren't addressed. And when one or two or more of them, those issues kind of suddenly combined, then you've got an accident, and you've got somebody in the hospital. Talking about these safety issues is really important, because it builds a culture of being heard, and it builds a culture of feeling like you can raise these issues and they'll be addressed properly. They won't fall on deaf ears. And I think that the best way to do that and the best way to feel really safe is to feel like you have actual proper channels to go through. And I think that's why HSR or health and safety reps are so important in workplaces. You know, I've never worked in a hospitality business that's had a HSR rep, and I honestly think that if I had, or if there had been one at the business, you know, that put several of my friends in hospital, that it would have turned out totally differently. So I guess through my experience, for me, OH&S in the workplace boils down to eliminating or managing hazards, at least. And that is always on the boss. It's the boss's legal responsibility to ensure that they provide a safe, secure workplace for all of us, all workers, all their staff. When that doesn't happen, as it unfortunately often doesn't, workers do have lots of power. We all have, you know, the power to speak up in our workplaces. And when we can do that through official representation, like a HSR rep, our voices become much more powerful. I think my advice for young people in the workplace would be to speak to your fellow workers, they're your mates, they're your comrades. Speak to them, and if you can, elect an HSR rep and join your union, because that's how we all have power, you know, with each other, our workmates, our comrades in the industry that we're working in. And through all those tools that exist, you can make difference and make a change.